Have you ever looked at something and just thought, what on earth am I seeing? That was us, the other day. We cracked open one of our hives and found this, a bizarre, delicate chain of bees, just hanging there, clinging to each other. Honestly, our first thought was that something was terribly wrong. Was it a fight? Some weird, new bee disease? It was a total mystery that just stopped us in our tracks. We were completely baffled. But it turns out, this wasn't a crisis. It was the exact opposite. This strange, living lace is actually the secret to how honeybees build their entire world. This is the story of festooning. When you first see it, it's so easy to assume the worst. A chain of bees, hanging motionless in the dark. It just looks like a problem. But what if I told you that this behavior is one of the most incredible examples of natural engineering on the entire planet? What we mistook for a disaster was actually a profound moment of creation. This isn't chaos, it's architecture. This is how a colony, working as one, literally builds its home out of thin air, using their own bodies as the blueprint. So, what in the world is going on here? This behavior is called festooning, and it's when worker bees link themselves together, leg to leg, to create living chains or curtains. These delicate, web-like structures usually hang in the empty spaces where the hive needs to expand. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's just plain weird. They just hang there. Sometimes for hours. You can gently pull apart two frames in a hive and see these chains stretch like a living net before they finally, calmly let go. This is a behavior that's deeply wired into their biology. Honeybees have tiny hooks on their legs that let them securely grab onto one another, forming these incredibly stable, yet flexible, chains. It's not just one type of bee either, both young and old worker bees can join in, though you see it more often in big, booming colonies that have plenty of bees to spare for the job. Now, it's really important not to mix up festooning with other bee behaviors you might have heard of. It's not bearding, which is when bees cluster on the outside of the hive on hot days to cool things down. And it's definitely not swarming, which is how a colony reproduces by splitting off to find a new home. Festooning is an inside job, a quiet, coordinated project that happens in the bustling darkness of the hive. For years, this sight perplexed even scientists and seasoned beekeepers. Why would thousands of bees burn precious energy just hanging around? The answer, it turns out, is as elegant as it is brilliant. The main reason bees festoon is to build honeycomb. Think of it like a construction crew that creates its own scaffolding, but instead of metal poles and wooden planks, they use their own bodies. This living scaffold does a few brilliant things all at once. First, it's all about physical support. When beeswax is first produced, it's incredibly soft. Without some kind of support, a new comb could easily sag, warp, or just plain collapse under its own weight, never mind the weight of thousands of bees and pounds of honey. The festooning chains create a living framework that holds everything steady while the new wax is shaped and hardened. They are the masons and the scaffolding, all in one. But it gets even smarter. There's a strong theory that these chains also work as a living measuring tool. Honeycomb is a masterpiece of geometric precision. Each hexagonal cell is perfectly shaped to maximize storage while using the least amount of wax, a principle proven by the honeycomb conjecture. Bees need to keep a very specific distance between their combs, a critical gap known as bee space, which is about 3/8 of an inch. This gap is essential for them to move around and work. So how do they measure this so perfectly in total darkness? It's believed that by hanging in these chains, they use their own body length as a living ruler, a natural guide to make sure the comb is built with flawless spacing and orientation. They are a living, breathing blueprint for their own city. Okay, so they form a living scaffold to measure and support the build. But where does the building material come from? This is where festooning gets even cooler. The worker bees in charge of construction have special glands on their abdomens that secrete tiny, clear flakes of beeswax. To get those glands working and to make the wax soft and pliable, they need heat. And that's another critical job of the festoon. By clustering together in these dense chains, the bees crank up their collective body temperature. Their metabolism generates warmth, creating a local microenvironment that reaches around 91 to 97 degrees Fahrenheit, about 33 to 36 degrees Celsius, the perfect temperature for making and shaping wax. The festoon isn't just a scaffold, it's a mobile furnace, a self-regulating biological heater designed for peak construction. Once the little wax flakes are secreted, they're passed up the chain from bee to bee. Using their mandibles and legs, the bees chew and mold the wax, mixing it with saliva to get it to the right consistency. Then, tiny piece by tiny piece, they add it to the growing comb. This is a slow, demanding process. It's estimated that bees have to eat about 8 pounds of honey just to produce a single pound of wax, making it an incredibly precious resource they can't afford to waste. While comb construction is the main event, scientists think festooning might have other perks too. The dense net of bees could help regulate the hive's overall temperature and humidity. All that physical contact might even be a form of communication, letting them coordinate their complex building projects through touch and chemical signals. And the result of all this strange, silent teamwork? The honeycomb itself, one of the most beautiful and efficient structures in the natural world. When we look at a finished frame of honeycomb with its thousands of perfect hexagonal cells, we're seeing the direct product of festooning. Each cell is even tilted up at a slight angle, somewhere between 9 and 14 degrees, a brilliant bit of engineering to make sure that liquid nectar and honey don't spill out before the cell is sealed with a wax cap. These cells are the absolute heart of the colony. They're the pantry where honey and pollen are stored to get the hive through winter. They're the nursery where the queen lays her eggs and the next generation of bees is raised. The entire survival and future of the colony depend on the integrity of this city made of wax. For a beekeeper, seeing festooning is a fantastic sign. It means the colony is healthy, bustling, and ready to grow. It tells us they have enough food and enough workers to invest in expansion, whether that's building brand new comb or carefully repairing old sections. That strange chain of bees that first gave us a scare was actually a beautiful and hopeful sign of a thriving colony. So, the next time you see a photo of bees clinging to each other in a delicate, living chain, you'll know you're not looking at a crisis. You are witnessing a profound act of creation. You're seeing a team of architects, engineers, and construction workers all rolled into one, using a system they've perfected over millions of years. What first looked like a bizarre mystery in the dark turned out to be one of the colony's most vital secrets. It's their method for building their home, their nursery, and their food stores all at once. It's a living, breathing scaffold that lets them construct their world with breathtaking precision. It's a powerful reminder that in a honeybee colony, every single action, no matter how weird it looks to us, is part of a grand, coordinated intelligence working for the good of the whole. The chain isn't a sign of weakness, it's the source of their greatest strength. If you found this peek into the world of bee behavior as fascinating as we do, please consider subscribing for more discoveries from inside the hive. Liking the video helps us reach more people who are curious about these amazing insects. And let us know in the comments, have you ever seen bee festooning yourself? We'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching.